Hey, good morning, everybody. This is First Warrant Storm Team Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich. Here's your update on Maria. Some good news and not so good news. Good news, the storm continues to weaken from a wind standpoint, but the impacts from surge really aren't lessening all that much, and let me explain why. Let's look at the satellite image first. Storm is clearly getting weaker. The whole northwest and west side is actually opening up quite a bit. You can't see it as much on the visible image, but when you look at the infrared image, look at that. This center has almost no convection. All of it is off to the east. And what we mean by convection is essentially thunderstorms. The thunderstorms near the middle make the storm stronger. When they get pushed off to the right side, the core gets weaker and it becomes more of a, kind of think of like a hybrid system like a nor'easter. Now, if we look at the water vapor loop, we can actually see dry air getting pulled into the center core of the system. That's the mid-level water vapor, and this is the low-level water vapor. You could see dry air really getting pulled into the core. It's still got a core, but there's no storms near it. The storm is moving over cooler water as well, which means it's likely going to weaken quite a bit more, maybe down to a tropical storm. But here's the issue. This is the latest forecast track, the individual plots. This is 8 p.m. tonight, 8 a.m. tomorrow, 8 p.m. tomorrow, and then 8 a.m. on Wednesday morning. Then it makes that right turn by 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. on Thursday. So you could see this is basically, if you were to draw the cone here, it's somewhat like this. So you're probably saying, hey, Outer Banks doesn't look too bad. Remember, this isn't going to be about wind. The wind is not the big concern here. It's going to be the storm surge because the circulation is so large and it's had days and days to build up this water. All of this is getting pushed towards the coast. So storm surge is our biggest concern, especially as it gets up in here. Sound side flooding would be a concern because the winds are already coming out of the northeast, which is pushing water in the Pamlico Sound down towards the southern part of the sound. So let me just show you real quickly. I'm going to turn on the wind speeds. You can see right out of the northeast here on the Outer Banks. And so all that water in the Pamlico Sound is getting pushed towards the sound side of the Outer Banks, which is always a concern. So when I look at the impacts for the Outer Banks, winds really not that huge of a concern, though I put it in the low, maybe low medium threat, because early on Wednesday morning, especially after midnight into Wednesday morning, we're likely going to see gusts close to 50. Flooding, now this is rain flooding, freshwater flooding, not a big concern. This isn't going to be a big rainmaker, but surge, water coming in from the ocean. This is our biggest concern, and you can see the orange I have here between late Tuesday into early Wednesday. That is our biggest concern by far as the moisture gets banked up against the Outer Banks. And let me kind of show you some of the tide gauges and when we're expecting the peak here. So you can see Hatteras Island, which just instituted a mandatory evacuation for visitors only. You can see the tides are already running higher than forecasted, about 1.5 feet above mean sea level. But as we get towards midnight on Wednesday morning, this is Tuesday night into Wednesday morning, you could see water height at about 1 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday is forecast to be about 2 feet above mean sea level. So that means, about 2 foot of storm surge. I think 1 to 3 feet is probably going to be the general theme. Now, the northern Outer Banks up here towards Duck, you could see the water actually not that bad. It's going to peak about the same time, but this is going to be more on the ocean side because remember, the winds are going to be coming like this. So the ocean side of the northern Outer Banks gets clobbered. But as you go to the central and southern Outer Banks, it's the opposite. The wind's pushing the water from Pamlico Sound down towards Ocracoke and Hatteras, Cedar Island, even down towards Atlantic Beach, Morehead City. So areas down here, towards Cape Lookout, down towards, areas in eastern part of Morehead City out towards Atlantic Beach area. These are the areas that we have to watch for flooding. You can see some of the tide gauges here around Cedar Island, and this area's in eastern part of the southern Pamlico Sound could see storm surge close to 3, maybe 4 feet in those areas because of that northeast wind. So that's our biggest concern down in that area, and that's why you're seeing the storm surge watch and the evacuations for some of these islands. Here's a look at the track and the wind field. You can see the wind field obviously further offshore, but the Outer Banks, that's why you have a tropical storm warning in effect. You could see the winds probably, I'd say there's a 50% chance we're going to see tropical storm force winds on the Outer Banks, maybe a little bit closer to Hatteras where it could be close to 70 or 75%. So don't get fooled by the winds going down a little bit. This isn't going to be a windstorm. per se. This is really going to be about the surge that it's going to produce as it makes that right turn off towards the northeast. So again, even though there's not a ton of rain, there won't be huge bands of rain spiraling in to the Outer Banks. There will be some. This is really going to be about that surge as the waves and the water get piled up on the coast. So please listen to your local officials. We could see some overwash on Highway 12 in some spots because each tide cycle is going to be running a little bit higher than the next, and that will definitely push each consecutive high tide for the next 48 hours up a little bit more, and that's what we're worried about. So for the Western Carolinas and further inland, there will be very little impact except for these high clouds, these cirrus clouds we call it, and some breezy conditions tomorrow into Wednesday. We're talking winds maybe 10, 15, 20 miles an hour. The real action is going to be offshore as this pushes to the east. The thing to watch is see if it makes a turn even more to the east and how much more it's going to weaken over time. That'll be something that I'll watch later today when next update to the track comes in at 5 p.m. But we'll get intermediate updates every 3 hours now as hurricane hunters go out there and we get position updates from the National Hurricane Center. So hope you're having a great Monday on the Outer Banks. Please get ready. Tuesday night into Wednesday is your time frame. That's when the worst weather is. I'll put this graphic up again. The time frame for you, late Tuesday into early Wednesday. And again, strongest winds there, but this is the concern. Surge, surge, surge. If you're going to look at one thing today, this is the graphic you need to worry about on the Outer Banks. Of course, I'll have complete updates starting at 4, 5, and 6 right here on NBC Charlotte. See you then.